Apparently nobody wants the AL West. Astros offered it up. Rangers, Mariners said thanks, but no thanks. So let's make a deal, Astros. I'll take it, but only if you throw in a Texans run defense. It's episode 41 of Stone Cold Stros, and it starts right now.
The Houston Astros, world champions!
Welcome into Stone Cold Stros. I'm Brandon Strange. I'm joined by Charlie Palillo and Josh Jordan. Follow them on X at Palillo and at Josh Jordan 975. Insert the obligatory plea to hit like on this video. Subscribe to this channel. The full version of this podcast is available in audio form right now. All those links are in the description. And as we promoted last week, and we'll be promoting for this foreseeable future, the three of us launched a new Texans podcast called Texans on Tap. You can find that on our new YouTube channel, Sports Map Texans. That's our new YouTube channel. You can find that on YouTube by searching at Sports Map Texans, all one word, at Sports Map Texans. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider as well by searching Texans on Tap. That's TAP, like a beer tap. And then one more time, at Sports Map Texans on YouTube, all one word on your podcast. Search Texans on Tap. Charlie, it's episode 41, and I was a little bit surprised by the selection here. Which Astros player are you highlighting this week who wore number 41?
Well, the world champion wearing 41 of note would be Brad Peacock, but I'm going Brandon Backey, the Galveston native. A couple of very high-profile money postseason pitching performances. At the very top, Game 5, 2004 National League Championship Series, Astros-Cardinals. The Jeff Kent wins it with a 3-run homer, 3-0 game, bottom of the ninth inning. Brandon Backey threw 8 innings of one hit shutout ball in that game. Brad Lidge pitched the top of the ninth, hence Lidge got the win. But the apex of Brandon Backey on the mound as an Astro, also probably a close call between Backey and Mike Hampton as the best hitting Astros pitcher of all time.
Yeah, and Backey is a super cool dude. Just a great guy. Let's get to it, guys, because this seems to be one of the more quirky division races, as I alluded to in the cold open. The Rangers looked dead in the water. We talked about that last week, but the Astros and Mariners couldn't take care of business, and now the Rangers find themselves just a game and a half back of the Astros. The Astros drop back-to-back series against 100-loss teams, and yet find their lead increased over Seattle and Texas. Houston now hosts Baltimore for a 3-game set before the rematch with KC. And then there's a really important series against the Mariners in Seattle. Guys, we've banged on Dusty all season for not optimizing this lineup for success, but it's the heart of the order that's really been struggling here of late, especially in clutch situations and defensive lapses on the field. Is what we're seeing from Houston right now just a lack of focus or something more?
Well, if it's a lack of focus, shame on them, right? For a lengthy period of this season, the entirety by record, but the scrutiny has increased in recent weeks. Hey, what's the deal with you guys at home? And then they continue to go out and lay eggs at home. It should be noted the other team is on scholarship too. You know, the Mariners are a ball club basically as good as the Astros. So in a 3-game series, they come in here and slap the Astros around. It shouldn't be taken as a stunning development. Even Oakland beating the Astros 2 out of 3. Surprising, yes, but shouldn't be a real shock given the Astros 38-37 home record this season going into the final week at home, Orioles and Royals. But just the nature of baseball, it has more ebb and flow waves. Now they've been wilder and wackier waves. The road play, losing 2 out of 3 at Kansas City aside, has been brilliant. I just think it defies logic and description. Is there a little element of, we know when to turn it on. We know when to turn on. We're experienced. We're playoff proven. Well, you need to get to the playoffs to give yourself that opportunity. And the race has been dodgy enough, long enough now, that if they just had any sort of mentality of just show up, throw the gloves on the field, make sure the bats are in the dugout, we got this. That is not a champion's mentality. I just think they're not that great a team anymore. The starting pitching having collapsed basically the second half of the season. Right, the offensive numbers have surged overall, but they're erratic. Right, the Astros can clobber you, they can blow you out, but in a close game, they're 18-17 in 2-run games. They're 17-18 in 1-run games. Check my math. That's 35-35 in 1 or 2-run games because of the overall talent that they have when they get it going. I use the ebbs and flows and waves analogy. So, they can be an offensive tsunami, 11 runs in back-to-back games, 17 runs, 14 runs, and then too many games where they score 1 run or get 2 hits against the A's. It's just not a great team anymore, but it's a good team. Get in the tournament, especially if they win the division, then go back to the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, fatigue for me is one of the obvious things that I would point at. But I would also say that they've had 3 team meetings in the past month or so, so it's not just us noticing something's going on. If the players are calling team meetings, they've had 3 of them, I think Chandler Rome said. So something's going on with that. And I do think fatigue's part of it. And I will lay a little bit of this on Dusty. Tucker's 189 over his last 15 games. They finally gave him a day off the other day with McCormick playing some right field. So maybe if we saw a little more of that over the course of the season, we've been just begging them to give Abreu some time off too. It seems like he hits a little better when he's a little more rested. I mean, he's back to it's disastrous. He's 204 in his last 30 games. So Abreu is he's killing you again. So I think a little bit of rest is part of it. And of course, it's the starting pitching. It's been very inconsistent. When the starting pitching's like that, it's tough to win ball games, which it's something the Astros aren't used to. That's been a strength of this team for the last several years.
The Astros really have to falter badly to not win the division. Given Seattle and Texas having 7 head-to-head games remaining, that guarantees that either the Rangers or Mariners loses at least 4 of those. If the Astros go 8-4 these last 12 games, it guarantees at least a wild card spot and probably is enough to win the division. But we've seen them chump up enough series to bad teams that, no counting chickens on this stuff. Look, Dusty has done a season-long botch job on the playing time between Maldonado and Diaz. Abreu we have covered ad nauseum or ad nausea. But in the end, it comes back to player production in the big picture. If the Astros somehow were to lose this division or miss the playoffs entirely by a game or 2, you can fairly say, if Dusty had gotten it right or had risen to the occasion, woken up the second half of the season, all your analytics and so forth, it's probably a net difference of 2 or 3 wins if Diaz had gotten the primary catching playing time with Maldonado as the backup. Yainer Diaz, when catching this season, he's batting .321. As the DH, he's been a .240 hitter. Abreu just a mess. So having him start 80 of the first 82 games or whatever it is, and then compounding it as Josh alluded to recently. But the idea that, if the Astros had someone who was alert, a better manager, they'd be 10, 15 games better. Total BS. Like the Astros would be 98-50 if they had pick your manager relative to Dusty Baker. It's just a flawed team, as are most. In the Astros case, they're just more flawed other than the short COVID season, more flawed than they've been since the last time they missed the playoffs in 2016.
But if they do lay an egg in Seattle, things could get dicey to the point. And to your point of ebbs and flows, if you need any further proof that anything can happen, the Marlins crushing the Braves over a 3-game series, outscoring Atlanta by 23 runs. So anything can happen in baseball. So the whole thing of you should just expect to pick up wins against bad teams, that's not always the case. But to your point, Charlie, Dusty is not without blame here. He says everybody's going to play, but that sure doesn't seem like that's a equal, because some guys play a lot more than others. We've seen Diaz not in a game and then gets subbed in late in a game once it's out of hand and he hits a home run, and you just wonder, what could this guy do if he were on the field? I think we all collectively wonder about where Diaz would be in the Rookie of the Year race had he got regular playing time. That's not all necessarily Dusty to be able to predict that this guy who just got called up and is only here out of a necessity of depth is going to turn into the hitter he has. But once you get an idea, and once you have a veteran catcher that has struggled as mightily as Maldi has, last couple of weeks notwithstanding, of a bat that got red hot, you would think that Dusty would adjust, and it doesn't really seem that's the case. It almost seems like he is kind of in spite of the results on the field, kind of making some questionable decisions. I wonder. Certainly they wouldn't be 10 games up, but it's safe to say that if they were able to optimize their lineup in certain situations, they could have a healthy lead right now. Is it unfair to say that maybe they could be 4 games up on either the Mariners or Rangers at this point?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're up a game now and the net difference, Diaz getting bulk time at catcher and some more time at first base relative to Maldonado and Abreu, if the net difference, there's 3 games. There's your math on it. I don't think, or at least I'd like to think, that Dusty has not consciously thumbed his nose at critics. I don't need help. I've been managing for a long time, and I think I do a pretty good job. So I'm going to do what I want, come hell or high water. If there has been any sort of, I'm going to do what I want to do no matter what. You too, Dana Brown. That's negligence in job performance. However this plays out, I do think the trail now leads toward this being Dusty's last year as the Astros manager. I don't think it's going to end with them free falling out of the playoffs, not making the playoffs. I mean, with that. But if it does, it will be an ugly exit for Dusty in the end of his very distinguished career overall.
Yeah, and just a general observation, it feels like there's a lot more talking to the media going on this year. Maybe that's just my perception right now, but it seems like there's more of that going on, and anonymous people speaking behind the scenes. And I know Chaz has been featured and quoted in a lot of articles recently, but to be fair, he speaks to the media after the games. He may not know what his quotes are going to be used for in what particular article. So there's that as well. But yeah, it just seems, but it also makes sense, right? It's close. They're struggling. They're frustrated. Maybe you talk a little more behind the scenes when things aren't going so well.
And if in doubt, just blame it all on the batter's eye at Minute Maid Park.
There you go.
Well, hopefully that's fixed. They did make some repaints on that to the Budweiser Plaza. So, hey, we'll see how that fares out. That's going to be it for part 1 of Stone Cold Stros. To listen to the full podcast, it's up right now at your favorite podcast provider. And to watch the rest of our conversation on YouTube, check out the Stone Cold Stros playlist. We'll be releasing those videos very shortly. And as always, go Stros.